Hello. Our research paper is the big data analysis and mining of people's livelihood appeal based on time series modeling and algorithm. Introduction. In recent years, with the rapid growth of the amount of data in various fields, we urgently need to transform data into information and knowledge. Time series analysis is a method that uses statistical techniques to mathematically model a series of numbers based on a chronological order and discover the pattern of data changes. It has a wide range of applications. More and more countries in the world are committing to formulating a government data disclosure strategy. Aiming at the field of people's livelihood appeal in government affairs, this paper proposes big data analysis and mining using time series modeling and algorithm. People's livelihood appeal refers to the opinions and needs of people involving all aspects of society. It is a way for the government to interact with the people. With this intro being section 1 of the paper, section 2 of the paper introduces time series analysis modeling and algorithm of people's livelihood appeal. Section 3 analyzes the experimental data of people's livelihood appeal in detail and shows the results. Finally, section 4 summarizes the research work of this paper.
So I'll be talking about modeling and algorithm framework. So here we have two algorithms. The first is the time series additive combination model, and the second one is time series analysis algorithm design. So let's talk about time series additive combination model. So people's livelihood appeal is a set of time varying sequence xt. The change of time series can be decomposed into long-term change trend lt, short-term change trend st, and occasional change et. According to the characteristics of the sequence, an additive combination model is constructed and expressed by the formula x of t equal to L of t plus S of t plus E of t. So I'll be explaining you these terms. Among them, the long-term change trend LT should reflect the changes of people's livelihood appeal by month, which is related to economic development, weather changes, etc. There are many factors that affect the short-term change trend, which is ST, such as population changes and living habits. Occasional changes, which is ET, is more relevant to individual events such as specific social activities, extreme meteorological phenomena, and important political events. Studying the pattern of people's livelihood appeal over time will help you analyze the cause of the event, predict the trend of the event, and put forward suggestions and solutions. Decomposing the time series of people's livelihood appeal reasonably and accurately is a key of achieving the above goals. So moving on to time series analysis algorithm design. So there are three steps involved in this algorithm design, which is first is extraction of occasional change, then is the extraction of long-term change, and third is the extraction of short-term change. So what happens in extraction of occasional change? An occasional event is composed of a series of outliers that deviate from normal range and which has great research value. This paper uses the block method in statistics to separate outliers. In this paper, the upper bound Q is set to 90% of sequence maximum value and the lower bound Q1 is set to 0%. Now the second is extraction of long-term change trend. The sequence obtained by removing the occasional change ET from the original sequence includes two parts, namely the long-term change trend LT and the short-term change trend ST. It is generally believed that the long-term change trend LT should be able to reflect the change of the people's livelihood appeal by month, which is non-stationary component in the time series. This paper adopts the moving average filtering method to extract the long-term change trend LT. The length of the sliding window function takes 30 points, which reflect the change pattern by month. The extraction of short-term change trend ST. The short-term change trend ST can be obtained by removing occasional change ET and long-term change trend LT from the original sequence. It is generally believed that the short-term change ST has a certain periodicity, which is a stationary component in the time series. Now moving on to the next slide.
Experiment and analysis. Section 3. Experimental data. The data used in this paper is obtained from a local government's open platform. The dataset contains 39,788 public appeal submissions via WeChat, email, hotline, Weibo, and other channels from February 1, 2018 to May 5, 2019. Table 1 shows the description of the main data fields after deduplication processing. In order to better study the time series change of the people's livelihood appeal, this paper uses the time series algorithm proposed in section 2 to decompose the 6 types of people's livelihood appeal, combines other data to analyze the causes, and provides effective solutions. In the next slide, occasional change analysis. Figure 2 shows the occasional change of events. Table 2 from the previous slide counts the number of occasional events and their proportion in the total number of events. The results show that according to the proportion of occasional event, the six types of appeal can be divided into two categories. Unlicensed vendor, sewer cover, and out of store operation are relatively stable, and the proportion of occasional event is extremely low. There are obvious peaks in the other three types of appeal: industrial noise, academic qualification, and public transportation. Occasional events account for a large proportion of the total number of events, and the proportion of academic qualification is even as high as 65.8%. It can be seen that analyzing the causes of occasional event is of great significance for predicting the trend and reducing the number of such events.
So I'll be talking about long-term change trend analysis. The figure 4 shows the long-term change trend of 6 types of people's livelihood appeal. We observe a certain degree of similarity between unlicensed vendor and industrial noise, which suggests that these two types of appeal may originate from the same cause. Now, as you can see in figure 5, the curve of appeals for unlicensed vendor and industrial noise is very similar to that of the industrial production of the local government, while the curve of industrial production lags behind the curve of unlicensed vendor and industrial noise by about 60 days. Now moving on to the next
Short-term
slide.
change. Figure 6 shows a short-term change trend of people's livelihood appeal. It shows that short-term changes are cyclical with a period of about 7 days. In order to further study this issue, this paper counts the 6 major types of appeal in order of Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, as shown in figure 7. The results show that the short-term changes are related to people's working and living time. Therefore, we recommend that in response to appeals related to commercial activities such as unlicensed vendor and out-of-store operation, government departments should appropriately strengthen the management of appeals on weekends in addition to actively handling them on working days. In recent years, with the rapid growth of the amount of data in various fields, we urgently need to transform data into the information and knowledge and discover the pattern of data changes.
Now
Next
moving
slide.
on to the next slide. So here is the conclusion for our paperwork. Time series analysis is a method that uses statistical techniques to discover the pattern of data changes and has important significance in our life. At present, application of time series technique and big data analysis and mining of government affairs is relatively few. In this paper, 39,788 people livelihood appeals were reported by public via WeChat, email, hotline, Weibo, and other channels on government open platform, which were used to analyze the time series data by additive combination model. The change of time series is decomposed into three subcategories of long-term change trend, short-term change trend, and occasional change. Big data analysis and mining are performed on the data set using time series analysis method. Through experimental analysis, we have discovered the changing pattern of people's livelihood appeal, analyzed the causes of the event, and made predictions. The effectiveness of time series analysis method was verified, which could help the government to really conduct research, make decisions, and solve people's livelihood issues. The future work will be carried out in the following areas. First, conduct more analysis on the relation of data like appeal location, appeal group or individual. And the second one will be apply a time series outlier detection approach for occasional changes. So here are some of the references which we use for our paperwork. And this is the end of our presentation.